You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. The House Democrats have elected their leadership. There are no black women. I'm sorry. You don't have Democrats in charge without the power of black women voters. What is the CBC saying or doing about this?
So what's the reality is since 1977, 44 years ago, was the last time a black woman was elected to leadership in our caucus. And the election was for Shirley Chisholm. So think about that. In 44 years, and it hasn't been that black women haven't run. Every cycle, there's a black woman on the ballot. But when the votes are taken, the black woman never rises to the success of winning an election. And I stood before them and said, you know, there's a time when you have to take a look at yourself in the mirror and ask the question. There is no black woman that is deserving of leadership. We must step up and do the right thing. And I applaud Nancy Pelosi because she has at various times appointed black women to positions of leadership. But had she not done that, we would have no one.
So what are the actual positions? What are the actual positions here? We're talking about obviously Speaker of the House. We're talking about Majority Leader. We're talking about the whip position, head of the House Democratic Caucus. For folks who don't know, how many slots are there when it comes to the House Democrat Leadership Conference?
There's about 10 of them, 12 of them. So you have people who represent us in the media. They're called the DPCC. You have the 5 terms or less representative, which is what I was running for. You have the caucus chair. You have the Democratic vice chair. You have the leadership that represents us in the DNC. And these positions all come up for positions of leadership. So Terry Sewell, who is just a brilliant mind, has ran and didn't make it. The woman who now is doing the impeachment, she's an impeachment manager, and that is the amazing Plaskett, the representative from the Virgin Islands. We had, my goodness, Barbara Lee ran. You had Robin Kelly, who has run. So these are women who are accomplished that I know very well. And then when they stand up to be counted, there's always that comes up short. And I want our caucus to stand up and look themselves in the mirror and say, what is going on here? You know, I can't blame you or call you a name, but I can definitely identify the behavior and the results of what's happening.
And obviously, look, I mean, I think with the numbers the CBC has, this is where folks withhold those votes because the CBC has the largest caucus among the Democrats. It's a slim majority. If they don't have the votes of black women members of the Congress, bills can't get passed. And so what's the plan to fix this? What's the plan to actually make this happen, to put a black woman in leadership position?
So we as the Black Caucus have talked, and the next round, when the next Congress comes, we're going to have a full court press to elect a black woman to be in leadership. And we are serious about this. And we don't need just the women. We need the black men, and we need all of us. We're so proud of Hakeem Jeffrey. We're proud of the other black men, our amazing leader for the Black Caucus in Clyburn. We have had a Nagoose, who is a new member, elected. And so we have black men who are being put into the position of leadership. We're saying now it's time for black women.
All right, Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And be blessed and stay safe.
Absolutely. All right, folks, let's go to my panel to talk about this here. We're still waiting for those impeachment documents to be walked over to the United States Senate. So let's go ahead. Joining me right now is Kelly Bethea, communication strategist. Kelly, glad to have you here. And Mustafa Santiago Ali, a former official with the EPA Environmental Justice Division. Let's start with you. Kelly, it kind of makes sense. It ain't that hard to figure out how in the hell you have 10, 12 positions and there are no black women. Again, who is the backbone of the Democratic Party? Black women. Who votes for Democrats at a higher rate than any other group? Black women. Who voted for President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris at a higher rate than any other group in America? Black women. Kind of makes sense they should have some representation among the House Democrat Leadership Conference.
Not only does it make sense, it is incredibly disappointing and frankly insulting that no black woman has been elected to any position in the House in almost 45 years. I think she said 44 years. There is no Democratic Party as it stands right now, frankly, without black women. And this is just yet another example of the Democratic Party taking black women for granted. You cannot expect us to, quote unquote, fall in line and get with the agenda that is whatever the Democrat in the House want to do if you continuously exploit a black woman's power, expertise, loyalty, and most importantly, work ethic. It is not going to stand anymore. I'm not saying that the black people who are in leadership aren't qualified, but you can't tell me that there are no black women in Congress in the past 40-something years that aren't qualified. So this goes to show just how deep and rooted misogyny and sexism is across the board, even in the most quote unquote liberal side of politics. So we need to check ourselves as a party and make sure that a black woman is elected, not appointed, elected, actually chosen by the party to represent whatever capacity that they need this black woman to do.
Mustafa.
Well, my grandmother always said, when you know better, do better. And you shared that black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. I would take it a little further than that. I'd say the black women are the backbone of our country, if you actually understand, for those of us who understand the history of our country. And I think there are a number of opportunities so that we can address this devaluation that currently exists on Capitol Hill. So not only in the voting of the current positions, but we can also make sure that we have a 21st century legislature that actually may need to create additional positions so that we can make sure that all the things that are needed to be handled are being handled with this new sets of opportunities and responsibilities that are coming forward. I think that we also got to give some consideration also to the fact that when you only have 2 black women as chairs of committees, that there's work that needs to be done in that space also. And the reason that I raise that is because when you have those high-ranking positions, there is a lot of attention that's placed on those. And then it also probably would help as folks are deciding their votes if we had more folks who are in those positions and showing all the incredible work that they've been able to do in whatever that respective time frame is. And then the third and last point that I'll make is that I'm not sure if we should have to wait until the next cycle. And the reason that I raise that is because there are a number of corporations and nonprofit organizations and others who are going through this reevaluation of power sharing and making some significant changes to their structures. So maybe it is also time for those folks on Capitol Hill to follow suit with many of these nonprofit organizations and others who are trying to get in alignment where folks are asking 21st century organizations to be.
Well, it only makes sense. And so, again, one of the things that I have consistently said is that the CBC should be flexing their muscle the same way the House Freedom Caucus did. There are 59 CBC members. There were only 30 House Freedom Caucus members. There is no bill that can pass the U.S. House without the CBC votes. Not one. This is where you flex your power. This is where you sit back and say, ain't a damn thing moving until this happens. It's the same thing I said to the Maryland Black Caucus. They've reintroduced a bill for the funding of HBCUs. Same thing. They're the largest black caucus out of any state in the country. No bill can get passed in the Maryland legislature without black people. And I said, y'all should tell them ain't no bill getting past anybody without this bill happening first. That's how you use your power.
No, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And that goes back to my original point of how insulting this is. Because the CBC is so powerful, why haven't they gotten behind those Black women who have run for these positions in the past 40-something odd years? This does not make sense. I understand that Hakeem Jeffries has a position, Jim Clyburn has a position, but once again, you cannot tell me that Barbara Lee is not qualified. You cannot tell me that Ayanna Pressley is not qualified, or any other Black congresswoman in the past 40-something years is not qualified for any of these 12 positions. That does not make sense. And frankly, if somebody tries to justify it, it would simply be untrue. So you are absolutely right in your sentiment that we should vote as a bloc to make sure this happens, but also keep in mind that we got to get rid of the sexism involved in blocking Black women from these positions in the first place.
All I want is to flex power. That's what I want to see, Mustafa. And again, if you're the CBC, all you got to do is sit on your hands. And here's the other deal. You don't even need the whole CBC. You just need 5. Because guess what? The Democrats they have a slim margin. What, 222? You need 218 to pass? 5 CBC members say, we ain't voting. Done.
I agree with you. Yeah, no, I worked on Capitol Hill for 2 years for John Conyers. So, it's really simple. You have power unless you give it away. We often talk about that on this show. And folks have to decide when they're actually going to cash in some chips. So, I know there's a huge amount of strategy that goes on, but, there's an awful lot of vote counting that goes on in what you're talking about, Roland. And if folks don't have that backing, then it's not going to get done. So folks just got to decide when they truly want to utilize their power. And if they want to actually honor their power and honor the constituencies who continue to send you there, they expect you to stand up, and they can expect you to actually push back against these types of, it's an injustice. Let's just call it out for what it is. It is an injustice. And the Democratic Party has got to do better. So like my grandmother says, when you know better, do better. They know better. It's time for them to do better.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.